Dr. Abhishek Paras or Abhishek M.O. Paras Jaiswal.
No, Abhishek?
Bye.
So I'll just call you back.
Actually, we are live, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sir, we can start after 15 seconds, madam. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we are live.
Yeah. Let's start, ma'am. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody, and we welcome you to the unique episode of a taxation webinar conducted by the Endocrine Society of India in association with the Director General of Taxpayer Services Mumbai Unit, headed by Mr. Sumit Kumar. And we thank Mr. Sumit Kumar for giving us the opportunity and helping us actually to take on this webinar, which is going to be of use to all the people who are listening, who are attending, and who are going to listen as a recording as well subsequently. Because the idea is all of us work in our own spheres, but how best to take this forward and how best to actually spend your money without causing any troubles in the taxation. That is what we are actually trying to learn in this aspect. And we are thankful to the expert team who have taken their time out and actually helping us in answering their queries. Because as doctors, we understand that patients, but as sometimes you need to understand the money as well. And we have the experts who are sitting here how understand that money and then helping us to understand, maybe spend less time here and then take a call further. And I am the Secretary of Endocrine Society of India, and my warm welcome to all of you for this. And we are joined by an eminent panel of CAs who are going to deliver talks and then answer the questions subsequently. And we are also joined by Mr. Sumit Kumar, the Principal Additional Director General. And we are joined by Dr. Narendra Kotwal, who is the President of Endocrine Society of India. I welcome all of you to this webinar. And to conduct further proceedings, I request Dr. Lakshmi Nagendra, who is our Executive Committee member and a Senior Endocrinologist from Mysore, to take over the proceedings from here. Over to Dr. Lakshmi.
Thank you, sir. Once again, a warm welcome to all of you. We are very privileged to have this eminent panel with us today. I would like to welcome all of you with a brief introduction. So, a warm welcome to Narendra Kotwal, sir, who is the President of Endocrine Society of India. We're very happy to have you with us today, sir.
Thank
A
you.
warm welcome to Sri Sumit Kumar, who's a 1994 batch IRS officer with extensive experience in CGST, customs, and policy roles at CBIC. Currently heads the Directorate General of Taxpayer Services Mumbai Zone, which is India's largest, covering Maharashtra and Goa. So an accomplished academic and former journalist, he plays a key role in enhancing taxpayer services and compliance in the region. A warm welcome to you, sir. We have with us CA Jeenan Savla, Secretary and Regional Council Member of WIRC, who's a seasoned professional with over 17 years of expertise in internal audits, transaction advisory, and family office setup. She also serves as an independent director on listed company boards and is an active philanthropist supporting animal welfare and social causes. A very warm welcome to you and thanks for joining us. We have with us CA LLB Payal Shah, who's an experienced indirect tax professional with over 13 years in GST and customs practice and has authored key texts and spoken at leading tax forums across India. So she is director at GSC in Time Services and was recently awarded Young Achiever in Practice at the CVOCA Leadership Awards 2024. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. We are very happy to have you with us today. Thank you. So we have with us CA Gautam Rajesh Mota, who's a chartered accountant, LLB, and registered valuer. Currently a partner at CGCA and Associates. He's actively involved in professional committees of ICAI and CTC, and he contributes to regulatory literature and lectures widely at professional forums. He also serves as secretary of the CVO Chartered and Cost Accountants Association and is deeply engaged in social service through Ahimsa Dam, which is one of India's largest animal welfare centers. Warm welcome to you, sir. So we have with us CA Vinod K. Sharma, who's a chartered accountant with 25 years of practice in audit and direct and indirect taxation based in Delhi. A graduate of St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, he has worked with esteemed organizations like NTPC, BSNL, and Oriental Bank of Commerce. His depth of experience and commitment to professional excellence make him a highly respected figure in the accounting community. Welcome to you, sir, and a warm welcome to all of you again to today's webinar. We hope to have a great interaction with all of you, and thank you for taking your time to be with us today. So to start today's program, I would request CA Jinal Savla and CA Vinod K. Sharma to give a brief introduction to the program.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to Directorate General of Taxpayer Services, Shri Sumit Kumar Ji, Principal Additional Directorate General of Mumbai Zonal Unit, for giving this opportunity, and the entire team of his for arranging today's webinar, in which three important dimensions of the economy are there. One, who is representing ICAI, that is Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, the largest body, accounting body on the globe. And one is, of course, the one who's looking after administration and regulatory and is helping our country for collection of taxes. That is Directorate General of Taxpayer Services, and one who's also the professional body who's looking after the well-being of everyone, the medical practitioners. So we, as an institution, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, are continuously working for financial literacy and is also actively engaged in nation's economic growth and ready to build a resilient and prosperous country. Friends, ours is one of the fastest growing economy, and we have seen, like, in 2020, total number of demat accounts were around 4 crore, and in 2025 it went up to 19.2 crores. So how significant there is a shift of household savings to, which is showing a growing confidence in nation's growth. With this, we have today's two expert speakers, one who is going to talk on direct tax and one who is going to talk on indirect tax, Gautam Mota and Payal Shah, and how one can all medical practitioners can offer the income for the taxes, and how to look at it and what things to be taken care of. With this, looking forward, thank you everyone. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. I would request CA Vinod K. Sharma to say a few words.
First of all, I would like to thank Sumit Kumar sir, Principal DGTS, for organizing such a event, which is going to enhance and which is going to update the knowledge of the professionals who are having this type of problems. So these type of webinars generally helps in solving the practical problem, and this would be beneficial, and I hope this webinar will be of great use to the youth.
Thank you, sir. We echo the same sentiments, and we're looking forward to listening to all of you and learning from all of you. I would now request our ESI President, Dr. Narendra Kotwal sir, and Shri Sumit Kumar ji to give the welcome address. Kotwal sir? Sorry, sir, you're muted.
Yes, I just got a call. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. And as a president of Endocrine Society, I extend a heartiest welcome to each one of you. And special thanks to Mr. Sumit Kumar, who was the brain behind this webinar today. As Dr. Hari has told you already, as doctors, we dedicate ourselves to healing others and have little time for our own financial matters. But in today's complex financial landscape, I think it is important that we should go a step further, try to not only should pay our taxes, which is our duty, but we should understand what are the provisions and what are the benefits available under law. To that extent, today's webinar has been organized. And I'm sure that at the end of this webinar, we all will be financially healthy and we'll look after the health of our patients also. So over to Lakshmi.
Thank you, sir. I request Sri Sumit Kumar ji to say a few words.
Very good evening to one and all. It is indeed a great honor to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Hari Kumar, Honorary Secretary, and Dr. Narendra Kotwal, President of Endocrine Society of India, and all other medical associations. Our trade panelist, CA, Jinal Savla, Secretary, ICAI, WIRC, CA Vinod Kumar Sharma ji, our speakers, CA Payal Shah and CA Gautam Mota, all my colleagues, and also the participants of this webinar, which is jointly conducted by Endocrine Society of India and Directorate General of Taxpayer Services, Mumbai Zonal Unit. I greatly appreciate the initiative and cooperation extended by Endocrine Society of India, as also the other medical associations. These associations have played a pivotal role in accelerating genuine grievance redressal at appropriate level, enabling us in the government to address and redress the problems. I would like to mention that Directorate General of Taxpayer Services is a wing of Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. It is headquartered in New Delhi, and we have 6 zonal units. The directorate is set up with a mandate to reach up to the taxpayers, the taxpayer associations, and to create awareness about the changes in laws, rules, and procedures, as also dealing with taxpayer grievances. These could include GST, could include the customs, and all the related areas. Our mandate is to deal with the grievances, clarify the doubts arising out of following of procedures. It is our constant endeavor to get in touch with taxpayers and bring in current and relevant topics, thereby facilitating the taxpayer in enriching their knowledge and enabling them to become aware of the changes and in turn enhancing the duty compliance. Most of our taxes are self compliance is the rule these days, and therefore we have been conducting several need-based webinars by Mumbai Zonal Unit, as also the Ahmedabad Zonal Unit, which is also under my charge. We have been taking inputs from various trade associations, various professional bodies, and today's webinar is one such event. The topic is a prescription for compliance, addressing GST, customs, as also direct tax issues in medical practice. This is specially designed for doctors, medical practitioners, hospitals, medical trade associations, and other professionals. I therefore welcome all of you to our webinar on prescription for compliance, addressing GST, customs, income tax issues in medical practice. The key objective of the webinar is to highlight the importance of tax compliance for medical professionals and who must navigate various tax compliance requirements. Under GST, understanding applicability on medical services, the GST rates on equipment and consumables, the concept of input tax credit claims is very crucial. Custom regulations such as import duties, and exemptions on medical equipment also impact the industry. Additionally, direct tax laws govern taxation of medical income, deduction and exemption, as well as compliance requirement for hospital and medical institutions. Staying informed about these tax issues can help medical professionals plan, ensure compliance, and focus on delivering quality care to the patients. This seminar would provide valuable insights and practical guidance on navigating these tax issues, especially medical professionals to focus on their core work while ensuring compliance with tax laws. Today, we have 2 speakers, CA Payal Shah and CA Gautam Mota. Ms. Payal Shah, Chartered Accountant, would be given presentation on the indirect taxation side, that is GST and customs. Ms. Payal Shah is a seasoned professional with 13 plus years of experience in indirect taxes, including GST, and Customs. As a director at GSC in Time Services Private Limited, she has handled litigation, consultancy, and provided opinions. She has worked with top firms like SKP, BDO, Ernst & Young, and is a regular speaker on indirect taxes. Has authored articles and is also author of a book, Key Rulings Under Indirect Tax Laws, a GST Perspective. She has also received the Young Achievers in Practice Award in 2024. Our second speaker is CA Gautam Mota. He would be giving us insight on direct taxation, income tax compliances related to medical field. He is a chartered accountant as also an LLB and a registered valuer with expertise in corporate taxation. He is a partner at CGCA and Associates LLP and ex Price Waterhouse professional. He holds various positions in professional bodies like ICAI and Chamber of Tax Consultants, contributes regularly to professional forum through articles and lectures, and is involved in social causes through animal welfare organizations. We also have two very eminent trade panelists who will support these speakers and provide valuable insights and solutions on tax compliance issues. They will engage with participants, address queries, and answer questions and share their expertise to facilitate a deeper understanding of the topics discussed today. Our first trade panelist, GS Jinal Savla, who is the Secretary of Western India Regional Council and Regional Council member of WIRC for 25-29. She is having 17 plus years experience in internal audit and transaction advisory. She is on board of listed companies as independent director, a past president of CVO Chartered and Cost Accountants Association, and also a philanthropist, actively engaged in NGOs working in animal welfare, education, and medical activities. Our trade panelist is Shri Vinod Sharma, who's a very seasoned and experienced chartered accountant. He did his graduation from ST Xavier's College, Calcutta, and qualified as a CA way back in 1997, and became a fellow of chartered accountants in 2002. He has been in practice for more than 25 years and is currently practicing in National Capital Region. His area of expertise is audit, taxation, both direct and indirect, and he has been attached with reputable organizations like NTPC, BSNL, Cribaco, Oriental Bank of Commerce, and Bank of Maharashtra. With these words, I welcome all the participants to this insightful webinar, and over to you, Dr. Lakshmi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So we are excited about starting off with the first session. So I have to confess that as doctors, we can diagnose everything except that GST feels like a post-op, complication that we never consented to. So I'm looking forward to hearing more on this topic. So the first topic for the day will be GST and customs, and over to CA Payal Shah for that.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi ji and Sumit ji, for a great introduction, and thank you so much, the society, for giving me this, wonderful platform where I can share views on indirect taxes. I agree with Lakshmi ji that GST is a different, I would say, ballgame altogether, where even being experts also, we face a lot of challenges. This being a new taxation law in the country, there are lots of challenges that we are facing right now. And even with respect to doctors and hospitals and pharmaceutical sectors, lots of issues which are coming up. So the law is yet to settle, and we all are also, looking forward to a lot of new decisions and justice in this particular respect. Thank you so much, including. So first is the Endocrine Society of India. I would like to thank them, and also the Director General of Taxpayers, Mumbai Zonal Unit. And is it okay that I start sharing the presentation and I come back to the topic?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So basically, just to understand what I'm going to cover overall, it is more on from the angle of doctors. Today that I understand that I need to cover the topics. A little bit I'll touch upon the hospital and pharmaceutical sectors as well. But more or less the focus today is going to be on the doctors front. So let's talk about, whether first most important thing that somebody will question is whether the doctors are required to take any registration under GST or not. And that's a typical question which may come up by, from anybody, because doctors may have certain incomes which will be their active income, obviously, from the practice that they are doing as doctors. There could be certain other incomes also, which may come up from, from maybe renting income or maybe certain interest income. So in those cases, the doctors may think that, okay, whether I need to take registration or not. Simply put, the registration provisions say that, you have to, in case your total turnover actually exceeds 20 lakh rupees in a year, then you need to take registration under the GST law. We'll talk about the taxability after some point of time, but there is more from the angle of compliance, that whether I need to do compliance or not. Once I cross 20 lakh rupees, suppose I'm being a doctor in Mumbai, I need to take registration. Also, there are special category states which are there. So the list is already given and the presentation will be shared. So in case you see any of these states, if you are practicing from those states, then the threshold limit will change to 10 lakh rupees. So in case your total income in a financial year is exceeding 10 lakh rupees, then you will have to take the registration. Now the question would be whether this total income includes only the taxable income. In our example that we discussed, there are three types of incomes that I said mainly. One is with respect to the active income as doctor. Assuming for the time being that the doctor who is practicing is having entirely exempt income, which is not leviable to GST. GST is not supposed to be charged on that service. The second income would be rental income, maybe an investment being done or certain other, so that is another source of income which the doctor can have. In respect of renting, they are saying that it is a taxable service unless one or two exemptions are given with respect to renting. The third income could be interest income with respect to the investments being done. There could be certain capital gains also, which I think Gautam Bhai will deal in detail. So from GST perspective, the first three incomes will really matter. So if I am able to total up all three, for example, rent in our case, interest and the practicing income, all three put together, if the total amount is exceeding 20 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees as the case may be, then you have to take the registration under GST law. Somebody may, come up with a point that, okay, in case I am going for an exemption entirely, suppose I don't have any other income apart from my, practicing income, then whether I need to really get into the registration zone or not. In those cases, my answer would be no, you don't need to take any registration in case you are purely under an exempt category income. But in case I'll just touch upon an example of a hospital. Suppose there is a hospital and they are also, selling certain consumables, or it's not the usage that I'm talking about. If they are consuming it in the providing the services, then there is no problem. But suppose there is a sale of medicines or consumables which is happening uh, by the hospital themselves, and if it is taxable, in those cases, the entire hospital, irrespective of the exempt turnover, even 1 rupee taxable. Suppose I have a hospital running and I have, for example, 5 crore turnover. Now, if suppose even 1 rupee taxable, turnover comes up, I need to take the registration and need to do all the compliances. So that is something that we need to understand, that the moment there is even some amount of taxable income under GST law, which arises or which comes to you, and if the total amount of your income goes beyond 20 lakh rupees, then you need to take the GST registration. I think they have discussed on the exempt supply and aggregate turnover. So, what is the exemption for doctors? That is something that we need to understand little bit in detail. That okay, we all normally say that for healthcare services there is no GST, which is there. So healthcare sector is generally out from GST net. However, there are certain anomalies in the law which we need to, still delve into. And once you are very clear on the law front, then definitely, we can say that, okay, as a doctor, whether I'm exempt or not exempt. So we'll discuss in detail about what is the technical discussion on the taxation or GST front. So healthcare services, if are given by three, people, then it is exempt. So we need to understand these three people. One is the clinical establishment, another is authorized medical practitioner, and third is the paramedics. So if you hold any degree, either you are a clinical establishment, again, that is also defined. We'll discuss in a while. Another, if you are holding a degree and you are authorized medical practitioner, or third, you are a paramedics, you are holding that degree. In these three cases, you are, and if you are providing healthcare services. So both put together, being a medical practitioner, but then if you are providing some services which are not covered as healthcare services, then you will have to face again the trouble. And second exemption which is given is with respect to the transportation of patient in an ambulance. In case you are transporting a patient in an ambulance, that particular service by ambulance is exempt. Again, if ambulance is used for some other purpose, then again this exemption may or may not be applicable. Just to give you a very clear, simple rule under the or indirect taxes, that these are exemption notifications and these have to be read very strictly. So that's a legal principle under the law. So what do you mean by this? So whatever wordings are given here, one cannot put down that logic to extend anything further. Whatever is given in this notification or the exemption and the wordings which are given, you have to restrict your healthcare service meaning, a clinical establishment meaning, entire all words which are put down in this entry needs to be read word by word, and you cannot add or alter any particular word about this notification. So therefore it is important for us to know what is the meaning of healthcare service under GST law. Maybe you may consider certain things to be healthcare, but then under GST law it may or may not be considered as healthcare for exemption purposes. The other definition which we need to understand is clinical establishment. This being exemption, as I said, we need to really read it strictly. So not a single word to be added or deleted. So yeah, we'll go to the next. Now, with respect to the exemption entry, which is on the healthcare services, the first entry that we discussed, there could be certain luxurious rooms which can be given to patients, and therefore, what they have done is they have given a cap of 5,000 rupees. So, as a hospital or maybe as a clinical establishment, if you are providing certain services with respect to room, and if the room rent is exceeding 5,000 per day, then in that case, this exemption is not applicable at all. So therefore, in those cases, the hospitals will have to take, or the clinical establishments will have to take registration and will have to comply with the law. Now, what is the meaning of healthcare service? I think that is where the entire discussion will revolve around for next 5 to 10 minutes. The healthcare services means, so again, it's an inclusive definition where whatever is given needs to be read as it is. Any service by way of diagnostic or treatment or care for illness, injury, deformity, abnormality. So we'll go one by one. So any service by way of diagnosis, sorry. So basically, in case as a lab, if you are diagnosing anything, then that will be also treated as healthcare services. Whatever checkups are being done, whatever diagnosis of the treatment or care, for illness or deformity, etc., is being done, that is considered as diagnosis. Now, thereafter, the other word which is used is treatment. So, whatever treatment is given, for example, it is given in hospital or whether it is given somewhere else. If any treatment is given for any illness or injury or deformity, then again that is also covered under this definition. Third one is care. Now, this care word we had discussed, in our office sometime back, that this is a very wide concept. Care it may include a lot of things within its umbrella. So, in our view, even though the entire definition is restrictive, this particular word will give a lot wider meaning to the healthcare services. So even if you're not doing diagnosis or treatment, even if care is being done for the illness or injury, in those cases also you are covered under these healthcare services. So for example, if there are particular places where you are given a stay only to care for the patient, and thereafter that patient becomes better, and then that person leaves that particular place, that may also be treated as healthcare services. So the care word itself, though it is though it is used as along with diagnosis and treatment, the word itself is large enough. So all three put together, if that care is in the form of treatment or diagnosis or anything, then you should be able to take even that benefit for the exemption. Now, what all services are, or rather, what all things are covered? So one is the illness. So in case, for example, you are treating anybody for cancer or maybe for smallest illness also, like, smallest, like fever, etc. also, that is also covered as illness here. So thereafter, the word injury is there, obviously, in case there is any accident or any accidental trauma, etc. That is also covered in the injury. The deformity. Now, this is something again which may or may not be considered sometimes in hospitals. There may be certain, weight loss centers also. So in case there is any deformity or abnormality also, which is being treated by any medical practitioner or a clinical establishment, in those cases also, that is also covered as a healthcare service. Pregnancy obviously is again covered under the healthcare services. In case any of the services are given with respect to either of these domains, then it will be treated as healthcare service. In any recognized system of medicine in India, now Ayurveda, for example, in case somebody is, having a Ayurvedic clinic, then please understand that that is also recognized system of medicine in India, and therefore that also will be covered under this healthcare service. Thereafter, they say that and include service by way of transportation of patient from to or from the clinical establishment, which we have already discussed. If there is any ambulance or any other type of service which is being given, then that is also considered as part and parcel of healthcare service, and the exemption will be granted to them. Now, until this, we all are happy as doctors that okay, we get the exemption from GST. No need to get into the financial matters or taxation matters for that thought. But then there are certain particular services which are still out of the purview of these healthcare services. Let's look at those services as well. So, what is not included as healthcare service under GST law? That is hair transplant. We'll discuss about this in detail after some point of time. Cosmetic or plastic surgery, again, this also we will discuss in detail, except when it is undertaken to restore or reconstruct anatomy or functions of body affected due to congenital defects, development abnormalities, injury or trauma. Excuse me for my pronunciations. I'm not very good at medical terms. But yes, what I'm trying to inform here is that in case it is hair transplant or cosmetic or plastic surgery, then definitely the exemption is not given. However, if the hair transplant and cosmetics or plastic surgery is given to restore or reconstruct any anatomy or body which is affected due to some defects or due to some abnormalities or trauma, in those cases, that cosmetic or plastic surgery or hair transplant may still be covered as healthcare services. Okay, so this is something I think where the subjectivity comes in. This is somewhere where now let's understand 2 3 points here. The diagnosis, treatment, or care, these words are again not defined in GST law. Illness, injury, deformity, abnormality, pregnancy are again not defined in the GST law. And therefore, the legal principle is that all these terms needs to be understood as a common man. So, as a common man, if I consider this to be a diagnosis or a treatment or a care with respect to the healthcare services, then I will be eligible for the exemption. So, similar way, what is the meaning of illness? So, I've just given an example here whether psychologists are exempted from GST or not. So, in case they are considered to be medical practitioner under the they are authorized medical practitioner, and in case if you understand, I have given a link also of WHO. Now, obviously, a lot of people nowadays after COVID are talking about mental health, right? So, even the mental health is also considered to be a disorder, and therefore it becomes an illness for us for healthcare services. And in case any psychologist who is an authorized medical practitioner, if he is even giving certain services with respect to mental health, that will also be covered, in my view, under this healthcare services. So what we need to understand is though the meaning is given, we need to restrict ourselves, but whatever terms are given, we need to understand certain terms which are not defined. And as a common man or as a common parlance, what do you understand as those terms? And then you need to derive meaning, and therefore the subjectivity and the debate or issues which are coming up. Okay. Now let's talk about a little bit on the, I think this I've discussed. Yeah, let's talk about who is the authorized medical practitioner under the GST law. So they have again defined to say that a medical practitioner who is registered with any of the councils of the recognized system of medicines established or recognized by law in India and includes a medical professional having requisite qualification to practice in any recognized system of medicines in India as per any law for the time being in force. So just to give you a brief background, what they are trying to say is any medical professional who is registered and in India to practice as medical practitioner, then that person is covered under here as authorized medical practitioner in layman's term. Uh, just to make you understand that they have said at the end they have said as per any law for the time being in force. If somebody has taken any foreign degree, whether that person will be treated as authorized medical practitioner or not could be a question. So just to give you a brief background, any law for the time being in force generally would mean laws of India. This is normally treated under the law as whatever is in India, that is considered. So authorized medical practitioner needs to be still registered in India, and then he will be able to claim exemption, if any. GST on medical equipment. So yeah, I hope until this the things are clear. In case there are any questions, Lakshmi ji, you can inform me in case you want to take up any questions right now, or in case you want to take me to take the questions at the end, whatever you would like to.
I think we'll do it at the end, ma'am.
No problem. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Now, so this is one topic I think I've discussed in detail. I'll discuss on the hair transplant and the plastic and cosmetic surgery after some time. Now, on the medical equipment and consumables. Now, a lot of things or questions are coming up with respect to medical equipments and the consumables. The medical equipments normally under GST law are covered under one of the notifications, and the rate schedules are also given. In case you are getting any exemption, which in my view, there are few cases only wherein the exemption under GST law is provided. And on the consumables, normally the exemption is not provided. Now, as a hospital or even as a doctor, sometimes the question may come that we are using the medicines and we are using certain, maybe the gloves or certain surgical or maybe certain consumables. Okay. So in those cases, whether those purchases being done and later on those things being used. For example, medicine is being prescribed to a patient and given to him. Consumables are being used while giving the service of healthcare. In those cases, whether in those cases also whether GST will be applicable when I'm purchasing those things. So I would say that yes, in case you're purchasing certain things where there is no specific exemption, then you still will have to pay GST irrespective of whether you are taking credit, whether you are registered or not. In case on particular medicine being purchased or a consumable being purchased, you may, or rather generally you will have to pay GST on it unless there is any specific exemption given to any particular medicine. With respect to outward, some people may question that when I'm using these consumables for a patient or when I'm giving these medicines to patients, whether I need to still levy GST on it. My answer would be no. If so, there are two views to it, and I'll explain in which case what can happen. Suppose you are a doctor, and while giving the treatment you've already told him that okay, you still you are diagnosis, you've done a diagnosis wherein the malaria is detected for in a patient. Now you're saying that okay, these medicines needs to be taken and you can take this either from the shop or I also have it and I'm providing you from my clinic itself. So in the clinic itself, if you have that particular medicine given, and then if you're giving it along while giving the consultation, in those cases, in my view, it will become a composite supply and you will not have to pay any GST on it because your intention is not to sell medicine at that time. Your intention is to provide the consultancy services with respect to any particular healthcare services. Now let's talk about another example where there is a hospital and in hospital itself, they are treating patient at that time, they are using certain medicines, etc. That's okay. They're also having a separate shop within the hospital from where the sale of the medicine is happening. That is either to the patients of the hospital itself or could be outside patients also. So in those cases, it is purely a sale of medicine or those consumables. And in those cases, you will have to pay, GST on those transactions. So I hope we understand that what is the intention and what is the use test. So there is a definition of composite supply under GST law. What they say is whatever services you are providing, if you're providing as a general practice, it is a general trade practice to give the services like that or club certain things together and then provide it as a bouquet to the patient in your case or clients in other cases. Then in those cases, whatever is the general trade practice, you need to see that and then you need to determine whether it will be a composite supply or not. So in our case, normally all doctors would also prescribe certain medicines and certain medicines they will provide from their own own dispensary or maybe clinics. So therefore, in my view, those medicines being given at the time of giving consultation need not be considered as a separate sale of medicine. It will be covered within this consultation itself. However, if you are intentionally selling those medicines including to patients and also to outsiders, in those cases that will be purely treated as sale of medicine and you'll have to pay GST as is applicable. I think okay. Now here they have obviously the same advanced ruling. One of the advanced ruling has confirmed that in case you're using medicine and consumables with respect to healthcare services for inpatients, then it is treated as composite supply and covered under a particular head. Now, this I think I've discussed a little, but let me just give you a glimpse of. So, outward, I think I've discussed a little that, okay, when you are providing your service, what will happen? When you are taking medicines, I discussed a little that, okay, in case you're taking medicines, then you will not be able to take credit, provided you are not paying tax on your output. For example, you are maybe a doctor doing hair transplants. Okay. Now, that doctor will have certain services which may be taxable under GST law, certain services which may not be taxable under GST law, right? So, in case there is a bifurcation like this, where in certain services he is paying GST, in certain he is not, then whatever inputs and input services is getting. So basically, whatever medicines or certain consultations that he's taking to provide his own services, whatever input he is taking, there you need to again bifurcate whether it is a common thing. For example, rent could be very common. You will not be able to bifurcate rent that okay, this clinic is only for exempt service or for taxable service. It will be for both, obviously. However, certain things, for example, medicines could be specific to certain diseases which are covered under the exemption, and medicines could be sometimes, for only for taxable. So, in those cases, you need to keep separate records for all these things, and you need to segregate the GST input with respect to what is taxable, what is exempt, and what is even common, like renting. And then you will have to, decide that what all amount you will be able to take as a credit. I hope I'm clear on this concept. So in those cases, you will have to again, and you will be only be able to take credit with respect to what is taxable. Again, what is common, you will have to proportionately divide, and whatever is with respect to taxable amount, you will be only be able to take credit only with respect to that. I think I've discussed it. So yeah. Now, in case, doctors are visiting doctors and giving treatment to patients in the hospitals, and they charge to hospital, and then hospital in turn charges to the patient, then what will happen? Whether GST will be applicable on hospitals or doctors or both, that is a question. So in this, the answer is very, general, or I would say very common sense will apply here, that doctors being service providers will charge GST, in case it is applicable to hospital, or they will claim exemption. uh, Normally they will claim exemptions, and then hospital in turn will decide whether they need to also charge. So both being separate service providers, they are following a particular value chain. So first is the doctor, you are the first person in the value chain. Thereafter it will be hospital, and then it will be in turn the end consumer of all the services would be the patient here. There is a circular which is given on, I'm sorry, I think I've discussed this. Yeah, on the ancillary services, there is a particular circular also which is being given, which says that, the entire amount we will have to be charged, and that will have to be considered as healthcare service for the hospitals. If a hospital provides food to patients, either from their own canteen or from the external caterer, will it be exempt from GST or not? Now, there is a particular specific circular being given wherein they said that food supplied to inpatients and advised by doctor is a part of composite supply and will not be separately taxable. This is a very important thing. So, many of the hospitals are providing, a lot of food during their stay in the hospital or to the patients. So there you can take the exemption provided these are actually advised by doctors. Normally it is advised by doctors. Okay, after surgery, you will have to only take these things, and accordingly the food will be given to all the patients. And therefore, normally it will be treated as composite supply. As I said, it is even a normal trade practice that every hospital will give obviously these kind of services to patient, and therefore it is a part of the healthcare service, and you will not have to pay GST on it. Now, the important question on the cosmetic or plastic surgery that a lot of people have asked, right? So I'll discuss a little bit in detail. Now, I am giving one example here. Like suppose, so this is one practical case which has happened in the past, and I'll talk about the judgment also in detail after this. But let's understand the kind of services which you can provide as a cosmetic and I would say plastic and cosmetic surgery. So For example, first one is treatment of melasma and pigment disorders. There could be hypertrichosis treatment, the birthmark treatment, laser comb treatment, treatment of the scars which can come, treatment of viral warts, or maybe certain molluscum contagiosum. Sorry, I'm so sorry. As I said, I'm not very good with the medical terms. Benign skin tumors, the ACP, which is again nodulocytic cystic and acne treatment, which is more of a acne treatment, which I understand, the hirsutism treatment, and there will be also certain skin and hair related consultancy and consultation and counseling. Now, these kind of services, if are provided by a medical practitioner, then what will happen to them is a question, right? So, and I think that is where a lot of doctors are facing troubles, that they are also giving certain services which are exempt, certain services which are taxable. So, out of these, which could be taxable, could be a question, right? So there was a particular case in this, which was a Hyderabad tribunal case in the earlier service tax era, which could give a lot of clarity on how do you read the entries under the GST law. What it says is you need to check what is the ultimate intention of the treatment. If the ultimate intention of the treatment was to give as I said earlier, was to give treatment with respect to any injury or maybe any trauma or maybe any, illness. In those cases, it will be still treated as healthcare services and you will not have to pay GST on it. But suppose the treatment is only done to enhance the beauty, so if it is not advised by a doctor, but because of certain things or maybe because of certain intentions of the patient, they want to take the treatment voluntarily, in those cases it will be taxable. So here in this particular case, this Reyes Hospital Holistic Remedies Private Limited, they were giving these all the services that I listed above, and out of that, the tribunal said that only there are only two treatments which will get covered under the definition of, rather not which will not be covered under the definition of healthcare and which will get taxable. Which are these two? One is the hyperthyrosis treatment and another is hair laser comb treatment. These two were considered to be services which are more from the angle of beauty enhancement, and which were not, the intention was not to give any care or treatment or kind of things, and therefore it was covered as a taxable service. Yeah. Now again, here if you remember, the definition talks about cosmetic and plastic surgery. Therefore, the question comes, what is the meaning of surgery also? And one of the tribunal decision has said that surgery will be defined to mean whenever there is a physical intervention on the tissues which is being done by the practitioner. So if there is a invasive surgery which is being done, that including even non-invasive surgery, if it's done, that is also considered to be a surgery under the GST law. So this is, of course, as I said, are the judgments of the previous law, but in my view, these will be continuously applicable because the entries more or less remain the same. What was there in the service tax law remain the same under the GST law as well. I think, yeah, I have discussed on this a little, that in case there are certain skin related treatments which are being given, then those therapies in this particular case was a single session treatment, and there was a local anesthesia which was given also. So then they said that, okay, here this was with to address a particular disease, this was being done, and therefore again here also the exemption was granted. So again they have taken a Supreme Court decision. Now the base of the Supreme Court decision is being taken by this tribunal. The Supreme Court actually was not discussing on any particular service. It was discussing more on goods, that what will be the classification of particular goods, whether those will be cosmetic goods or a medicament goods. Okay. So I remember one of the cases where it was Lysil. So, Lysil, now you will think that normally it will be treated as a medicament by us. That is the perception that we have. But when it went to Supreme Court, so you please understand that the complexity in the product, smallest product, was such that it had to travel to Supreme Court to determine, okay, whether it is a cosmetic product or it is a medicament. And then Supreme Court at that time decided, So there was a counsel, a very senior counsel in the indirect taxes who argued the case, and he actually argued saying that this is not a hair oil, it is a head oil. Okay, it is not a hair oil, it is a head oil. And if you see all the labeling and the marketing and the advertisement being done for the Lysil, it's more from the angle that it is a medicament. And therefore the Supreme Court held that yes, this is not a cosmetic product, but with respect to, it is not for a beauty announcement, it is with respect to the medicament. And therefore accordingly the classification was provided. Similar case was this, which is Puma, Ayurvedic, wherein the discussion was again by Supreme Court on cosmetic and medicament, where they said that what needs to be seen is the primary use of the product. If suppose there is a primary use of the product which is with respect to medicament, it may incidentally help the other person to enhance their beauty. That is okay. But still, it will not be treated as a cosmetic related product unless and until the primary use itself is remaining to be the cosmetic. As I said in our case also, if I apply the same theory under the services, the moment you say that, okay, the cosmetic surgery is being done only to enhance the beauty by the patient, in those cases, definitely it will be taxable. But in all other cases, wherever there is a illness or injury or trauma, then you can take the argument that it need not be leviable to GST. Yeah, I think I've discussed a lot on this. Again, on the hair transplant also, there was a discussion which was being done in this particular case, wherein they said that, baldness is also considered to be illness, and therefore the product in this particular case law, they decided that it will be treated as covered under the healthcare services, and it will not be considered to be a, I would say, cosmetic or plastic surgery. Now, the next question, which I think somebody asked again on the dentist, that whether again, dentist also, when you clean the teeth, etc., whether it will be considered to be under the GST exemption or not. As I said, in case you are doing on any of these kind of services which are being given, then these are not cosmetic services. It can be still considered to be healthcare services. The same logic will apply in my view. Again, there is an advance ruling also which is given. If a doctor or medical practitioner has acquired any service from medical association where he or she is a member, for example, certain services are being taken by medical practitioner from association, then what will happen? In those cases, we are, there is a particular judgment recently which has come. What they are trying to say is that the association and members are nothing, are not two separate people. The entire association is made of members, and therefore there should not be any levy of GST on it. But definitely, this is a High Court decision which will be further challenged in Supreme Court. So we are yet to hear from Supreme Court. Until then, until this particular decision, continues, and there is no stay on this decision, you can take a plea and you don't need to pay the GST on the transactions between members and the associations. Lakshmi ji, you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. So just to give a heads up about the time, I think we have about left.
How much time more?
In about 1 or 2 minutes, we would record.
Okay. I'll conclude. No problem. I'm so sorry. I exceeded the time bit. Yeah. I think this I'll skip for the people, but definitely I'll talk a little on the customs duty also. On the customs duty, just to give a brief background, don't get scared of the entire chart. But basically, what I want to say is there are a lot of things covered under the law. The overview of the law is very big enough. But what I want to say is there are a lot of different types of duties which are being levied. And therefore, when you are importing any particular medicines or any particular pharmaceutical product or even the equipments, you need to be careful that it's not only the custom duty, basic custom duty, but additional duties which may or may not be levied. So you need to be very careful with respect to that. And for healthcare, there is also specific cess which is being levied, which is health cess. Unfortunately, the health cess is levied only on the medical instruments. So, so they are taking from hospitals and probably giving it to the end consumers or patients. So that's why you need to be very careful with these types of levies. There are certain things which I would like to discuss, but just to give three, so I've given three products here: Rosenberg, endoscope components, and liquid concentrate for disinfection of the certain machines. Just to give you 2 minutes brief background is one, the Rosenberg and endoscope so Rosenberg was an example which I wanted to talk about where it is very general. It's like a drilling machine for the head, right? But then there is a specific entry, there is a specific chapter under the customs which is talking entirely about the medical instruments. You first need to check whether your product gets covered there. Later on, you need to then see that if there is any part, okay, of the product which is only imported, then whether it will be considered as part, because there are a lot of litigations with respect to parts under the customs law. The third thing I wanted to talk about, the third point which I put down here is liquid concentrate for disinfection, right? Now, if you it is very funny that this was a disinfection which was more of, you can say, limbu pani. The components are exactly same, citric acid. And so it was getting covered under 3 chapters under customs. And when we examined all three, to the surprise of us, it did not get covered under the chemical, it did not get covered under the medicament. It actually got covered as citric acid. Okay, so there may be certain surprises which may be there, which you may not be aware of, and therefore you need to be very careful about it. And if you're importing certain goods, certain equipments in parts, or all put together but still in parts, then also the classification may change, and therefore you need to be very careful about it. Lastly, this is the last slide of the presentation, which is most important, that you need to be very careful when you need to get registered. You need to be careful about it. There are a lot of advanced rulings which are floating around for each case. So you need to be very careful that every advanced ruling will not be applicable to you. Advanced ruling is only applicable to that particular company, and it is also relevant only up till their facts do not change. If their facts themselves also change, this advance ruling for them is also not valid. So therefore, all advance rulings will not be applicable to you. Yes, tribunal decisions, Supreme Court decisions, which we discussed, will still hold better value than the other things. Considering self-assessment system, I think Sumit Kumarji also talked about it. That considering that it is self-assessment under GST as well as customs, you need to be very careful that you don't give any false information, even unintentionally. If you are doing something wrong, you may get into troubles with the litigations. Under customs, as I said, you need to check the classification. You need to check the anti-dumping duties. You need to also check. You can also check if you are importing from particular countries where there are free trade agreements. Then you can get the benefit of it, the country of origins. And I think with the tariff, war, I think everybody is aware that you can import at different rates from different countries. The project import can be explored when you are setting up the hospitals. And for trademark and patents, which will be for innovations by doctors, there will be a challenge on the taxability from GST front and even customs front sometimes. So you need to be careful. I think with this, I'll end up my discussion. I'm sorry if I've taken more time. Thank you so much.
Prabhati. I think that was just in time. Thank you so much. We have some questions, but we will take them in the panel because we are running
Right.
short of time.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you, Payal ma'am. It was really nice and awesome. You covered everything so much in such a short time. Just one question. A lot of doctors do have earnings, professional earnings from by working in clinical research projects and clinical trials, and they sometimes give consultancy or professional service to industry, including pharma industry, their earnings. So what is your
Right.
take on this, ma'am?
There, I don't think there is any exemption specifically given with respect to those services. So you will have to pay GST. As I said, in those cases, if it is entire turnover exceeding 20 lakh rupees as doctor, you'll have to take registration and comply with the law.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next session is on income tax, and over to CA Gautam Murthy.
Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. At the outset, let me thank the Directorate General of Taxpayer Service, all the office bearers of Endocrine Society for giving this opportunity. Let's run through the direct tax provisions which would be applicable to doctors, not making it very technical, considering that it's already 8 and it would be very easy for doctors to understand a layman language rather than using the technical terms. So we'll try to keep it as simple as possible. What we intend to cover during the course of this presentation is the taxability of income, whether the income that the doctors would be earning would be business income or professional income. because the ramification under the direct tax provisions would be very different if this gets classified as business or it gets classified as profession. Once we have decided whether this is business or profession, then how does the taxability work under the normal provisions of the tax and the presumptive taxation? So there are two schemes of taxation which are available, and one can opt for based on one choice. The next aspect that we would be looking at is the bookkeeping requirements. So what are the requirements, that how long you need to maintain your books of accounts, which are the books of accounts that one needs to maintain for what period of time, and some ancillary compliances like advance tax, TDS, and other provisions that one need to take care. And lastly, what we would be dealing with is the precautions while that you need to take care while you are filing your income tax return. As we spoke, there is a distinction between business and profession. Business and profession both are defined separately under the Income Tax Act. There are judicial precedents also which have tried to define business and professions at different point of time. Why the distinction is relevant? It's relevant because there are certain audit related requirements, certain other compliance related requirements which are different for business and different for professions. So it would be very essential that you classify the activity per se, whether this is business income or the professional income. However, luckily in case of medical professionals, section 44AA, there is a specific entry in that provision where they have said that medical profession including services rendered through nursing home will fall within the notified list and is treated as a profession. So very specific inclusion, and accordingly this whatever services that medical professional would be providing would get classified as profession. Under the Income Tax Act, generally the income gets classified under 5 different heads. One being income from salary, income from house property, income under the head profit of gains and business and profession, capital gains, and other sources. Whatever are the earnings from the medical professional related activity would generally get taxed under the head profits and gains of business and profession. Generally, the doctors would be practicing in their personal names, so it would be very easy for them. However, there would be certain doctors who would be running a nursing home under a private limited entity. So if you conduct a nursing home through a private limited entity, whether this would now get classified as business or profession. So in one of the judicial ruling, this has been held that if you're conducting similar operation through a private limited entity, then this would get classified as business and this would not be a profession. The very essence of profession is that it requires a personal skill which is there. The moment you'd say that this is a separate entity which is looking into this, then probably this gets classified as business and all other compliances related to business will come into force. However, one also needs to take into consideration that there would be a team of doctors. So assuming 3 doctors come together, form a partnership or form an LLP and then try and run a nursing home. Probably in those circumstances, this would get classified as a profession itself. But once you come into a private limited structure, there is a high possibility that this get regarded as a business and all other compliance will come into force. Computation of income. So there are 2 mechanisms of computation. One is the normal income where you say these are your gross receipts. Whatever are your actual expense, you deduct those from your gross receipts. You compute your actual profit and loss and you pay tax on it at a flat rate of 30%. That is one scheme of taxation. The other scheme of taxation for professional, which has been provided by the government, is that assuming your receipts are below a specified threshold, then whatever is your receipt, flat 50% of that or whatever income that you earn is subjected to tax. We'll discuss both of this scheme of taxation in greater detail in subsequent slides. So first, normal scheme of taxation, very essential to understand what do you mean by gross receipts. Again, gross receipt is something which is not defined under the Income Tax Act. The judiciary over a period of time has tried to create a definition or try to summarize what do you mean by gross receipts. In commercial term, basically it would mean that it's a commercial term construed in accordance with the method of accounting which is regularly employed. So a doctor may follow cash basis of accounting or an accrual basis of accounting. Depending on the method of accounting that he is following, one would determine his gross receipts for the doctors. Second would be the receipt from rendering of actual services. So assuming I'm treating patient and collecting some 100 rupees or 10,000 rupees, that would classify as gross receipt for the purpose of income tax. And third and very utmost importance is non-cash benefits. So as a doctor, a lot of doctors would be receiving some concessional tickets, some free traveling from pharma companies, some visit to conferences, visit to some various other places. All these are non-cash benefits. If these non-cash benefits are received while performing services, then this would get classified as gross receipts for the purpose of Income Tax Act. Coming more on the non-cash benefits, so there is a specific provision under the Income Tax Section 28(4) which says that any value or benefit or perquisite that is derived while you are performing your professional activity would be subjected to tax. So generally, like free samples, you have travel sponsorship, you have conference fees which is paid by the pharma companies, or pharma companies would generally tend to give a lot of gifts, promotional activities, referrals. All this is something which is subjected to tax under Section 28 and would form part of the gross receipt. One thing that you need to note that a couple of years back, there is a new TDS provision which has come into force, where for any non-cash benefit or any perquisite which is provided by the pharma companies, there is a 10% TDS which the pharma companies generally deduct before passing on that benefit to the doctors. So assuming tax has been deducted at source, it would be now very pertinent for the doctors to try and include that non-cash benefit for the purpose of taxation. List of allowable expense. Assuming you're following normal tax provision, then these are some categories of expenditures that you might try to claim it in your profit and loss account, something like rent, your salaries, depreciation on the equipments that you would be using for treating the patients, your telephone expense, conveyance, and general office. In terms of professional and education expense, there would be indemnity insurance, assuming you are paying anything, or any training cost or medical education cost. One special deduction which is available for not only doctors but for all persons who are conducting any business or profession is Section 80JJAA. This benefit is provided if you are creating a new employment. So any new employment that you do where the salary levels are less than 25,000 rupees and you are contributing to the Provident Fund account, then assuming you pay 100 rupees, you get a deduction of 190 rupees. So it's almost double the deduction spread over a period of 3 years that one can claim. There is no limit on the quantum of deduction that one can claim. The quantum of deduction can go without any restriction and without any restriction on the number of employees. So more employment that you generate, the government is trying to incentivize that. You get an additional benefit for that over a period of 3 years. In terms of depreciation on equipments, there are certain life-saving medical equipments on which the rate of depreciation is at a higher rate, which is 40%. Otherwise, generally all other assets would be depreciation would be eligible at 15%. These are certain list of assets where you would be entitled to claim a higher rate of depreciation. So till now we discussed normal scheme of taxation. Now coming to the presumptive taxation. So there is a scheme of taxation which has been introduced to enable small professionals and small taxpayers to ensure that there would be no audit requirement for you if you offer a 50% flat. So assuming your gross receipt is up to 50 lakh rupees and you offer say 50% of gross receipt as income or the amount which is actually earned, whichever is higher, then this would be accepted and there would be no specific scrutiny of the data for your case for that particular assessment year. Recently, this limit of 50 lakh was increased to 75 lakhs if your majority of 95% of your overall receipt is through banking channels. So if your cash receipts are less than 5%, you get an additional window of 25 lakhs. So from 50, you can go up to 75 lakhs. If your income is up to 75 lakhs, probably you can offer under 44 ADA flat 50% or maybe higher if you are earning higher income. The general misconception with the presumptive taxation is that I don't have to look at my actual profit and loss account. I only have to offer flat rate of 50%. So assuming my income is say 50 lakhs, I have to only offer 25 lakhs. Even if my bank account says I have 40 lakhs in my bank account, I will still offer 25 lakhs. That's the biggest misconception which is there prevailing today. as per the provisions, it is very clearly stated that 50% or amount which is actually earned, whichever is higher, is to be offered. However, to our surprise, there are contrary rulings which are there on the subject, where one of the tribunal has stated that you can offer flat 50%. However, the other tribunal has stated no, whichever is higher is something that you need to offer. So there are contrary rulings which are there, but my advice based on reading of language of the provisions of section 44 ADA is that whatever income you earn, be it 50% or the amount that you are actually earning, the higher amount has to be offered for the purpose of taxation. If you're offering a lower amount, then probably you need to get your books of accounts audited. Let's look at some situations under the presumptive taxation. Situation 1, where my gross receipt is 60 lakhs, my actual expense is 20, my net income is 40 lakhs, 50% of my gross receipt is 30 lakhs. I intend to offer 40 lakhs, which is my actual income. My receipts are more than 95% through banking channel, which is yes. Whether I could have opted for presumptive taxation? Yes, I could have opted for presumptive taxation because my receipts are more than 95% in through banking channels, and I'm offering 40 lakhs for the purpose of taxation. So 50 lakh, 30 lakhs or 40, whichever is higher, I have offered 40. I would have opted for presumptive and avoided audit for that particular assessment year. Situation 2, gross receipt is 60, actual expense is 35, net income is 25. 50% of receipt is 30. I intend to offer 30 lakh rupees as my income based on 44 ADA. However, my receipts, more than 95% of receipts are not through banking channels. So the limit of 50 lakhs, once it is breached, I don't get an extended limit of 75 lakhs because my cash receipts are more than 5%. So I get restricted to 50 lakhs. Accordingly, I cannot opt for presumptive taxation under 44 ADA. I need to get my books of accounts audited by a chartered accountant because it is exceeding 50 lakh of rupees, and do necessary compliance with the income tax authorities. Situation 3, my gross receipt is 60, my actual expense is 35, my net income is 25, my 50% of receipt is 25 lakh, 50% of receipt is 30 lakhs. I intend to offer 25 lakhs and my cash receipts are less than 5%. I can opt for presumptive taxation if I am declaring 30 lakh rupees, but if I intend to offer 25 lakh rupees, then I need to get my books of accounts audited. Situation 4, my gross receipt is exactly 50 lakhs or less than 50 lakhs. My actual expenses are 15. My net income is 35. My 50% of receipt is 25 lakh rupees. I have offered taxable income at 25. Whether I can opt for presumptive taxation? Yes, I can opt for presumptive taxation. If you offer 25 lakh rupees, generally there would not be any question, but subsequently, if there are any scrutiny for subsequent assessment year, there could be some challenges because your income is 35 lakhs and you are only offering 25 lakh rupees for the purpose of taxation. I hope this is clear because there is a lot of confusion regarding presumptive tax, that I can offer flat 50% and forget what is the actual income that I am earning. Bookkeeping requirement. So for doctors specifically, if your gross receipts exceeds 1.5 lakhs in any 3 immediately preceding years, you must maintain books of accounts. The books of accounts need to be maintained for a period of 6 years, and penalty for non-maintenance is 25,000 rupees. The books of accounts are cash book, journal, ledger, and copies of invoices that you have issued to your patients, and assuming you have taken any services from suppliers, and copy of those invoices. Something which is additional for doctors is details of the medicines and the consumables that you use. Also, daily case register. This is very important. Daily case register in form number 3C, containing details of patient, services rendered, fees received, and date of receipt. So just to give you a brief, this is how this form number 3C looks like. This is mandatory to be maintained by all medical practitioners. In practice, hardly I have seen anyone maintaining this kind of records. but this is what the law prescribes, and non-compliance would result in a penalty of rupees 25,000. So it would be pertinent for the association either to represent this to the government that the requirements are too cumbersome and probably this cannot be maintained, or start maintaining this to avoid any non-compliance and penalty of 25,000. Tax audit obligations. So as we saw earlier, if your turnover or your gross receipt is exceeding rupees 50 lakh of rupees, or assuming your income is up to 50 and you have declared less than 50% of your income, then requirement of audit is mandatory. Assuming requirement of audit is mandatory, then this you need to obtain a report from a chartered accountant in form number 3CA and 3CB, which needs to be filed with the government authorities by 30th of September of the following year. For example, for financial year 24-25, this needs to be filed by 30th of September 2025. Tax deduction at source and compliance. So as a doctor, assuming you are making payment to your suppliers, to your employees, whether the TDS obligation comes into picture or no. So yes, TDS obligation would come into picture if your gross receipts is exceeding 50 lakh rupees. Then provisions of TDS is mandatory for non-salary payments. For salary payments, there is no threshold. If you are making payment to your employees, and if the amount is exceeding the basic threshold limit, which is currently at 4 lakh rupees under the new regime and 2.5 lakhs under the old tax regime, then there is a mandatory requirement to deduct tax at source and obtain a TAN number, which is tax deduction account number. Generally, a lot of doctors have not applied for the TAN number and you are not even deducting tax at source. So maybe this is a non-compliance which one needs to take into consideration. Once you have a TAN number, then there is a quarterly filing of tax returns which comes into picture. And once you file your tax return, then there are TDS certificates which gets generated and which needs to be submitted to your vendors within the specified timelines. Cash transaction limits. So as a post demonetization, there was a specific provision under the Income Tax Act which now restricts that any person who receives more than 2 lakh rupees or more in cash in a single transaction or in respect of a single event, then whatever is the quantum of cash that is received, equivalent amount of penalty is something that would be levied on him. Very important. As a doctor, maybe if you are treating any patient and you say he has given me 2.5 lakh rupees of cash for treating him, probably if this gets disclosed or this gets noticed at any point of time, then probably an equivalent amount of penalty can get triggered on you. So be very cautious. The best practice is to start adopting electronic payment and try and reduce the usage of cash. If you are accounting for this cash in your books of accounts, you will have a real-time problem at subsequent stage. So ensure that you are not accepting more than 2 lakh of rupees. You are in case you are accepting, then probably you will have to split this into different names and try and ensure that you are not accepting from the same person a 2 lakh of rupees. Advanced tax requirements. So generally, any person whose tax liability is more than 10,000 of rupees after tax deduction at source. So assuming my liability was say 100, I have 60 rupees of tax deducted at source. So 40,000 is my liability of payment of tax. This 40,000 would be something where I'll have to discharge over specified quarters, 15 June, September, December, and March. The percentage are 15% of liability, 15, 45, 75, and 100. I'll have to discharge my liabilities on a quarterly basis. If I fail to discharge my liability on quarterly basis, then probably there would be a levy of interest and penalty on the SSE. So one need to ensure that they are trying to envisage what kind of income they would be generating over a period and discharge their advanced tax liability accordingly. Only leeway is for persons who are opted for presumptive taxation. They need to discharge their liability only on 15th of March. So 100% of their liability needs to be discharged by 15th of March. Otherwise, there are no other restrictions or no other relaxations which have been provided. The moment your liability exceeds 10,000, probably you are liable to pay advance tax. Precautions while filing your income tax return. So assuming you have opted for a presumptive income, then there are 4 specific fields that you need to fill in your income tax returns. Failure to fill these 4 particular fields, which are debtors, the amount of debtor, amount of payables, your inventory valuation, and your cash in hand as on a particular date, as on the balance sheet date. If you fail to furnish these 4 items, then your return is considered as defective if you have opted for presumptive taxation. So very essential that you fill in these 4 details very properly. Reconciliation of income and TDS with your 26 AS. So a lot of doctors would be performing various activities with various hospitals. Hospitals would be deducting tax side source. Probably the receipt of that money would be at a subsequent stage. So reconciliation of that would be very essential while you file your tax returns. Annual information statement is another piece of paper where government has tried to map 57 such specific information, something like purchase of securities, your interest income, your bank account details, your foreign, your TCS details. All such details are something which reflects in your annual information statement. So very essential that you reconcile the data that is going in your tax return with your annual information statement before this gets filed. Another precaution that you need to take is, assuming you are holding any foreign asset, be it for a particular day, for a single moment, or half a day, or even for a few minutes, or even if you are a mere signatory to a bank account which is lying outside India, then it is very essential that you disclose this in your tax return. Failure to disclose this would result in invocation of Black Money Act, and there are very severe penalties up to 10 lakh rupees for non-disclosure. So very essential that you take this into consideration. Filing of return in correct income tax form. So depending upon what kind of income you have, whether you are partner in some entity or no, or whether you are opted for presumptive taxation or no, there are totally 6 forms which are applicable. ITR 1 to ITR 4 is applicable to individual, 5 is for partnership firm, and 6 is for the company's private limited entity. So 1 to 4, which form to be selected? A proper form needs to be selected. If you select an incorrect form, probably your return can be considered as defective. So you need to be very cautious which form you are selecting. Generally, what we have seen is that a lot of doctors try to maintain a single bank account where their personal expense and their professional expense are done from the same bank account, which tends to create a lot of confusion as to what is it that can be claimed as personal expenditure and as a business expenditure. My advice would be generally to maintain separate bank accounts so that there is a clear demarcation that an expense incurred from bank account 1 is to be considered as personal. Expense incurred from bank account 2 has to be considered as professional. It would be very easy for your tax consultant to try and prepare the balance sheet and profit and loss account if you are maintaining separate bank accounts. Otherwise, it becomes quite difficult and a lot of questions can come up at subsequent stage if you are maintaining a single bank account. So maybe from this financial year, you can start having this practice to maintain separate bank accounts. In case you are owning a immovable property on a co-ownership basis, then probably share of house property is to be filled. Each owner's details needs to be filled and the gross amount of rental needs to be reported in the ITR. And most importantly, personal balance sheet. So assuming till last year the income threshold was 50 lakh rupees. So if your income was in excess of 50 lakh rupees, you need to report your personal balance sheet. From this financial year, this limit has been increased from 50 lakhs to 1 crore rupees. So one needs to take care that if your income, generally for doctors, this income would be very small number. So once you cross this limit, you need to file your personal balance sheet with the income tax authorities, in addition to the business balance sheet that you would be filing in a particular form. So these are the few precautions that you need to take into considerations. Happy to take any questions. Thanks for a patient hearing. And once again, big thank you for giving me this opportunity to address my views on this subject. So over to you, Lakshmi.
Thank you, sir. That was very interesting. A lot of new points, and before this, I was, feeling happy that ignorance on income tax is not taxable. So that is one thing that we're happy about. So just to ask you a question, so you must have many doctor clients, who are filing income taxes with you. So how would you rate their ignorance on 1 to 10 about income taxes?
So generally the ignorance is very high. I think what we have observed is they are they are not bothered with what's getting filed with the income tax authorities. They say we don't have time. You file whatever you have to. We'll pay tax. We are happy to pay tax. You just give us the amount. We try to educate them that you need to sit down, look into the finer aspects, what expenditure is going, what is not going. But generally, the discipline that we see, that the kind of discipline that you carry in your profession, medical profession, I think same needs to get replicated when you are looking at your own financials. I think that is lacking big time. Something that needs to be addressed by your association.
Let's hope that this webinar is going to change, some aspects of that. So thank you once again. So next will be a panel discussion. So I invite CA Payalji, CA Gautamji, who will be supported by CA Jinalji and CA Vinod Sharmaji for this panel discussion. So we have quite a lot of questions coming up, and some of them I have already put up on the group. Yeah. So this is the most common question that we have also, discussed among ourselves, and this is also something, that's been a question for the longest time for myself. So if the income is only from practice, okay, so and it exceeds 20 lakhs, should the doctor still register for GST?
So no, in case you only have exempt income, as I said earlier also, then you actually do not need to register yourself under GST law. Even if it is, 100 crore also, it is fine, no problem. But at the same time, as I said, even 1 rupee taxable income thereafter, right? So suppose you have maybe 5 crore income, which is exempt, but then you have 1 rupee, which is taxable. Then you will have to do all the compliances under GST law. You'll have to get registered. You'll have to put down the record separately. So that, that's where I think when we were talking to one of the hospitals, that was one of the biggest concerns. When even you are doing branch transfer, so entirely you are exempt. But when you are doing a branch transfer, for example, you are, closing one hospital and then shifting the equipment somewhere else, then also the GST will come in picture, which, cannot be thought about, right? So there are certain peculiar transactions that you need to know, as I said. But overall, as a doctor, you just need to ensure that once you're crossing 20 lakh limit and even 1 rupee, taxable income, you have to get registered yourself, but not otherwise.
So another question is, many doctors have, both salaried and private practice income. And what are the most common mistakes that you see in how they file returns, and how can these be avoided?
Should I take it? Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Like if you are having income from two sources, like many of the doctors are getting salaried income, and additionally they also have professional income. So for salary income, that will be going under the head income from salary, and most probably for that they will be getting Form 60 from the hospital. So for this private practice is concerned, that will be coming under the head business and profession, and there the doctor has this option of either maintaining their books of account, or as has been explained by our panelists, they have this option of opting under 4480, that is presumptive, up to 75 lakhs. So both the options are there. So separate, like salary under salary head and professional income, that will be coming under business and professional.
Lakshmi, if I can add something on this.
Yeah, sure.
Just to add on to what Vinodji said right now, see, generally in Bombay, what I have seen is a lot of hospitals generally deduct tax at source as professional fees when they are paying. So even if there is an employer-employee relationship, even if the doctor is visiting a lot of multiple hospitals, generally what we have seen is there is a professional, the transaction is generally reflected as professional fees. The salary would come into picture only when there is a employer-employee relationship. Employer-employee relationship would technically tend to mean that The hospital is governing the doctor that you have to come at so and so time, you have to visit so and so patient, you need to do this, you need to do that. So all the roles and responsibility is fixed by the hospital. Whereas generally what happens is the doctor will say that I will come on so and so time, I will do this, I will visit so many patients. If there is no employer-employee relationship, then generally this partakes the character of professional fees, and the hospitals would be deducting tax as 194J rather than TDS under salary. So just need to take care whether there is an employer-employee relationship existing or no, and then try and decide this.
Yeah, that's interesting. So how frequently should a doctor discuss his accounts with his tax consultant in a year? What do you think is, a good frequency?
I would tend to believe that this has to be monthly if tax has been because there are various compliances that happens on a monthly basis, like tax deduction at source. Your advance tax would be payment on quarterly basis. So bare minimum is quarterly, but if you are liable to deduct tax at source, then probably this has to be monthly that you need to take into consideration.
The more frequent you visit to your CA, that will be more beneficial for you.
Agreed.
Beneficial to both, to the CA as well as to the doctor.
So you need to do your financial health checkup as well. That's the key.
Agreed. Agreed. So we have another question. So for doctors running clinics, what are the most overlooked deductions that they may be eligible for? For example, rent, staff salaries. What do you think is overlooked most often?
So I already covered in my presentation the list of expenditures that you can claim generally if you are running a clinic. One thing which would be overlooked generally is the special deductions for 80JJAA, which is if you're creating a new employment and the salary levels are less than 25,000 and you are contributing to the provident fund, probably the quantum of deduction is very lucrative. Against 100 rupees of payout, you get 190 rupees of deduction. So it's almost double the deduction that you can claim.
So I thought we did speak about documentation, but what is like the ideal time that medical professionals should retain their financial records in case of scrutiny, and what documentation you think is absolutely non-negotiable?
So again, as highlighted, I've already mentioned this in my presentation. It's 6 years that you need to maintain your books of accounts. Earlier, this was 8 years. Now, because the time limit for reassessment has come down, now the requirement is for 6 years. The documentation requirement is quite cumbersome for doctors, as mentioned that you need to maintain a case register, you need to maintain list of medicines that you have used, the consumables that you have used. Hardly any doctor maintains that. Not seen any of the doctors maintaining it, but that's the requirement under the law. And assuming you fail to maintain that, then there is a penalty of 25,000. So that's how it is.
Thank you. Yeah. So we have another question. Is there any limit to the financial amount of medicines that a doctor can self-dispense in a month? So we spoke about self-dispensing, right? Which is a part of the consultation itself and not necessarily as, this not a separate store. So is there any limit to that?
So there is no limit, but as Gautam ji also pointed out, you need to keep the records very clear that you know what all medicines came in as a stock and then what you have dispensed with. So in that similar to income tax in GST also, though I'm not covered, I've covered more on the conceptual aspect. But documentation under GST, I'm sure everybody is aware that every invoice level details needs to be maintained. So it's a Herculean task if you ask me. You need somebody to really look into your bank account and also your in and out of purchase bills and sales invoices on a regular basis, because it cannot be disproportionate still, right? So otherwise there'll be other investigations which will continue to do. So my suggestion is you need to so you have to have stock records also which are required to be maintained under GST law. Once you are taking the medicines, keep the record of the at least purchase invoices, and then when you're dispensing, then again you will have to consider it under the consultation. So there's no limit as such which is given under the law, but you still need to have some basis based on which you can then justify that these medicines were given for these patients. And at least you need to keep the record and you need to match with your various records under the law, because your whoever is a supplier will also upload his GSTR2B. I'm sure you all must be aware that he'll also put his records. You also have to match his records, and then you can claim the credit of it.
Thank you, Payalji. We have a lot of questions, so I'm just going to ask them quickly. So, are electronic health, records okay for record keeping rather than books? Electronic media, is it okay for record keeping?
Yeah, that is okay.
Under GST law also it is okay, just that digitally you need to sign the records and you need to keep it on your place where you are registering yourself. That's it.
Okay. So, if you had to give tips on best practices for categorizing professional expenses versus personal ones when maintaining bank of accounts, what would it be?
So I think you need to very delicate question that one needs to answer. So and you need to look at nature of expense, I think, and then try and see in terms of the practice that the doctor is doing whether this can get classified as personal expense or business expense. A lot of litigation around what gets classified as personal and what gets classified as business. So uh, not very specific answers that I could give at this point of time, but based on factual metrics, one could evaluate. But as a practice, if I think if you start maintaining separate bank accounts, the life would be much easier for the doctors and for the CAs as well, because it would be much easier for you to maintain the track of the expenses that you have incurred for the year. I think Vinodji can add if he has any specific points.
No, it's okay. Like the main important thing is like maintaining the books of account. We have observed that the books of accounts are not generally maintained, and most of the returns are getting filed only at the time of file. So like when the due date comes, they come with the documents, and the books of accounts are missing. So far, even GST part is concerned, they also don't like we have seen in NCR. Many doctors are like investing in real estate and they are getting assured rental income, but they are not aware of that provision. And once the case will reopen or open after 5 or 6 years, so that is a very long time, and you will be like assessed for the previous 5 6 years. So that precaution needs to take in, and books of account, and as Gautam ji has explained, like you need to visit your CA at least quarterly minimum, so that you get an update what is happening and what precautions that can be taken. Visiting at the time of filing is not a good advice.
That's a point well taken, sir. And I've also been guilty of this, so I'm hopefully going to change that. So now we have another question. With the increasing use of payment apps like Paytm, Google Pay, and all in clinics, especially, how should doctors declare such income? Is it any different? And how do the TDS implications work here?
There is no difference. It is just that you are receiving through banking channels. So whatever you receive through Paytm or the wallets, it's nothing but the banking channels that is there. Only thing is that you need to ensure that you are maintaining proper records of those transactions. Generally, what happens is even for wallets, what we use the same wallet for personal purpose and business purpose. Then probably it might have some difficulties to try and bifurcate your professional receipts and your personal receipts. So assuming you are sharing some expense with friends and using the same wallet, you are transferring the money, then it's going to be a challenge. So better to have a separate corporate account or a current account where you have a separate QR code and you receive money over there. Probably no challenges at all.
Okay. This is one of the last questions. What simple financial planning tips can help, especially early career doctors, reduce tax burden and also help in assets?
Difficult one. So I think you need to evaluate what kind of incomes that you are earning. And generally, I think 44 ADA is a good mechanism where if you plan your affairs properly, probably you can try and reduce your taxation. You need to consult your CA, whoever your CA is. He'll try and arrange, he'll manage your affairs in a particular fashion and try and take maximum benefit of the presumptive taxation provisions. Probably you will end up saving a lot of tax.
Thank you, sir. What is the take of the experts on the personal GST use penetration among doctors in 2025?
Sorry, I really did not get this. What is the take of the experts on the personal GST use? Penetration amongst doctors. Sorry, can you please explain what they want to ask?
Sorry, ma'am. Yeah, I just meant that like a lot of doctors do have GST compliant incomes apart from professional fees. But this confusion was their total income 20 lakh versus even 1 rupee extra. I think many people do not realize that. So my question is now GST been there for a long time now. What percentage of doctors actually are having their own GST number?
So, if you ask me, I don't think many of the doctors are getting this kind of understanding. I remember one of the cases where now under income tax and service tax, what they do is they check your income tax records, look at the TDS data of income tax, and then they try to figure out whether you are registered under the GST law or not. So, in this particular cases, lot of cases came in service tax era wherein the department checked TDS versus the service tax records, and then they sent notices to those doctors to ask that whether you have paid taxes, whether you are liable to pay tax or not. So therefore what you need to see is you need to, as we discussed also, that you need to ensure that what all incomes you have as source of income, whatever you're reporting in income tax, you need to match it with your GST also. And in case you are crossing that limit, then as I said, even 1 rupee crossing, you need to take the registration. So there are I would say very less doctors who have come to us by now. A lot of hospitals have come, a lot of pharmaceutical companies have come. But personally, doctors, they are very, as I think Gautam Bhai also mentioned, they have less of time. But I think it's a must now, considering the kind of records and kind of investigation or the kind of data that the government has. They are going to ask you again, and later not any, I would suggest, in fact, somebody asked the question on the tax planning also. My suggestion is better you pay, earn higher and pay taxes and show the record so that it is easier for everyone. That transparency, I think, will really help a lot. And in the longer way, you will get that result. So as a doctor, I think you being educated, definitely you have to take out some time from the schedule. But if it is disciplined, if you're disciplined in that way that you come out on a regular basis, you'll not face a lot of troubles. You can have some, maybe an outsourced consultant, a small time person also. This can take your records and keep the entries for you.
Thank you, ma'am. So I will ask Gautam ji the last question. So what are your top 3 do's and don'ts for doctors in India for financial year 2025, 26 to stay compliant and tax efficient?
So I think my advice would be start reviewing your financial records. Don't wait till the last moment. Start doing it quarterly. Take it very seriously. The way you start treating the patient, try and take the same task with your own financial records. Probably you'll end up doing a lot better. The willingness is something which is missing. So if willingness comes, probably things would be much better. Other than that, keeping records properly, I think that is something that needs to be taken into consideration. Rest of the things I think is already that all the 3 panelists have already spoken about. I think it's the more of the willingness from the doctors' end. I think all the doctors are earning heavily. It's not that they are earning a small amount. They're earning a decent size of amount, and it's high time they try and maintain proper records to ensure that they are not at any default at subsequent point of time.
Lakshmi ji, just to highlight one case, I just recollected, and if you allow me. So there was one case in service tax wherein, the department, so I was speaking to department, and on December was the due date, I think December 22 or 23. And, department said that we were sitting in office until 12 o'clock. And then she mentioned that, by mistake, I sent notice to doctor. Okay. Because it was too late, and they didn't realize. That was one case. Another case was we are fighting, I think it in appeal somewhere, wherein the doctor actually came to us, and only because they did not give the certificate that they are a medical practitioner, the department did not take the plea of the exemption, and then they have to now go for appeal. So that is a classic case. I think you'll understand the importance which Gautam Bhai is trying to say, right? That it is important that you give the records and give it on time. So then, the things are sorted and you don't need to really worry about it a lot thereafter.
Thank you so much. So So that was the end of questions, but I just have to tell you that, my inbox is exploding with questions. I've never had such questions, even for a medical webinar. Everybody is just sending questions. I hope we have answered most of the questions. So thank you so much. Thanks to all of our panelists for joining us today. I enjoyed all the deliberations a lot and, learned a lot as well. Over to Dr. D for closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshmi, for managing today's program so well. I am really in awe of all our esteemed faculties. I mean, how the time flew, we just didn't realize, and I'm sure all the audience would feel the same. A lot of important aspects has been covered. I think as we can see here, one key take-home message which goes for all of us is to maybe give at least 10 minutes before going to bed, just look at your earnings and expenditures in the day. Maybe maintain an Excel sheet in your laptop would make easy. If not daily, at least do it on weekend once a week, so that you are not overwrought by the end of the month, and definitely not overwrought by the end of the quarter or the year. It's so frustrating then do what to do. And we need to help our professional experts, our chartered accountant experts who are helping us. We need to help them also. They are not gods, because if we give them wrong information, how can they help us out? I think we must realize that. And key message has come out that yes, even if we earn 1 rupee out of our professional income as seeing patients, we need to have a GST number. It is not difficult to get and it really makes life easier in the long run. I think that's the key message which should go out to all our colleagues who have attended this meeting and are going to perhaps see it later also from our website. So I think it was a very good learning experience for me, and I'm sure the questions will be unlimited, but yes, because of lack of time, I think all good things come to end faster than we want them to. So a big thanks again to all our experts. Thank you for coming. Over to you, Dr. Lakshmi.
So thank you, one and all. And we have, recorded the session with your permission, of course, and this will be up on our website. And many of our doctors will be watching it again. And hopefully we can email you if any pressing questions come up. So we've never had so many CAs at once answering all our questions. So we are, kind of overwhelmed today and happy. So thanks to you. Thank you for taking out your time for this. And good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir. Very good night.
Thank you, sir.